So if you caught last night's video, it was going through 12 different kind of cuts and card bases that you can do using a standard piece of A4, the British A4 size cardstock. And so inevitably I ended up talking about a lot of the measurements in metric because that is kind of what I'm used to. However, I did know that a lot of you do work in inches, and not only you work in inches, but also you have to use the American standard size cardstock. So I've been through, I think, most of the designs that I did yesterday, and I've written down the measurements. And so I'm going to go through them as slowly as possible, as carefully as possible, and just give you those measurements. And my aim is to actually write 2 big blog posts, one in metric, one in imperial, and also have some sheets that you can actually download and have the diagrams on the sheet to show you how to cut and score. But anyway, it's a bit of a long-term project. I've managed to design 2 so far, so I'm kind of getting there. So hello and welcome. This is a bit of an extra live. I don't normally go live at the weekend, but I just was sitting at my desk and I thought I would do that and get that out and done because it's fresh on some of your minds. So first of all, I just want to compare, just so that for those of you who wonder why it's so important for me to do this, particularly for the American sizing, I just want to explain to you the difference in the different card stocks, and I'm going to demonstrate that now using and now hold on, let me just check that if I've done this right. So the American cardstock measures 8.5. Oh, I did do it right. 8.5 by 11. I'm just double checking. Yeah, oh, I did do it right. I was looking at it thinking, oh, that looks a little bit thin, but no. Okay, so this is the American size cardstock. I don't know, I'll put it that way around. Like that. And this is the British, the yellow. Okay, so this just kind of gives you an idea of the difference between the two. And so as you can see, ours is slightly longer and yours is slightly wider. Okay, so that's the difference. So I'm going to go over the first basic design that I talked about, and this is how to make your card bases. So in order to make a side folding card, so that's a card that will fold that way. So that's like half of using half of a piece of cardstock. You score at 4¼ inches, then you will turn it on your trimmer and cut at 5.5. Okay, then if you wanted a top folding card, so one where the score is at the top, you would score at 5.5, turn it and cut at 4¼ all right, so that's your standard size cardstock. So if you wanted to create a matting layer that would then fit happily inside there with a really thin border, you would cut a matting layer of 4⅛ by 5�3. And if you wanted an even smaller matting layer to sit inside of that, you would do another one that was 4 inches by 4¼ and so you can see how that sits really beautifully on there. Or you can maybe just use the one and just, that's probably closer to what I tend to use, but in centimetres. I did have one out. Here it is. So in the UK, this is the sort of standard matting layer that I do. So you can sort of see that margin there is quite similar actually. But anyway, I did that one as well, just so that you've got that other extra one. Okay, so that's moving on. So that's, sorry, I am moving on now. So that's your basic cardstock size, all right? And the comparison with the UK sizings. and the rest, and other places actually. Sorry, it's not just, I know I keep referring to UK and America, but I know in Australia and Canada and other places that it's you I can't remember who uses what, but yeah, it's not just me in the US. Okay, so to make a trifold triptych, okay, so this is again based on the American sized cardstock, which is 8.5 across. You would then cut this to 10 7/8. Then you would score at 3 5/8 and 7 1/4. Okay, 3 5/8, 7 1/4, and that would then give you an evenly spaced triptych like that. Then if you wanted to cut your layer, a matting layer, to just sit very finely inside that, then I took off 1/8 of this panel here, and that would be, I haven't tested it, so do check. I think it's 8 3/8 by 10 6/8. Okay, so that's 1/8 off. If you want to take more off, just take more, but you know, just measure and cut it appropriately. Okay, so that's the triptych. Yeah, so the slimline measurements are coming. So we've got the slightly wider slimline here, and then the thinner one. So for this one, you would have your full length, width of your cardstock, like that, okay, which is your 8.5, and then you would cut it to be 8 inches across, like so, and then score at 4 inches. So you would get your, it's quite similar to this. And again, if you want to do your matting layer, you can either take off 1/4 of an inch, or you could take off 1/8. If you take off 1/8, you can do it's 8 3/8 by 3 7/8. Or if you want to go in a bit, which is more like the one I've got here, then it would be 8 1/8 by 3 hold on, that's not right, 5/8. I've written that wrong. 8 5/8 to create another matting layer. Okay, so that's your wide slimline. Then for your thin slimline, and this you would actually get 2 card bases from a piece of cardstock with this. You would then cut your cardstock in half, okay, and so you would cut at 5.5 inches, and you would score at 2 3/4. Okay, 2 3/4, and that's how you would get your super slim, what I call a super slim line card. And then if you want to do your matting layer, one of the options is 8 3/8 by 5 3/8, and that would get you a matting layer. But it depends what you like, you know, you experiment with that one. Okay, so I'm just grabbing now the things that are on the top of the pile now. So this is the Gatefold card, the mini Gatefold. This is not the larger Gatefold, this is the mini one. So this would be cut, again, you would get 2 out of a piece of cardstock. Now to make life easier, I actually just would trim off 1/2 inch. So you'd have your 8 inches that way. Then you would turn it around and cut 5 1/4, like so. And that's how you would end up with this size. And then you would score at 2 inches and score at 6 inches, and that would then give you your gatefold there, like so. If you wanted to do a matting layer to go inside here, that would measure 1 7/8 by 5 3/8 to go into this section here, and to go in this section here, you would do 3 7/8 by 5 3/8 to fit into there. So the larger gatefold, which uses pretty much all of your cardstock. You can leave it whole. Now, obviously, mine is a little bit less there because our cardstock is less, but you can just use your full whole sheet for this. It measures 8.5 by 11. Then you score at 2 3/4 and 8 1/4, and that will give you your large gatefold card there. Okay, and then if you wanted to do, again, fine matting layers, you could do 2 5/8 by 8 1/8 to go there, and this whole panel then would be 5 3/8 by 8 1/8. Okay, so, but again, if you want, you know, broader edges, broader borders, I was trying to think of the word then, broader borders around the edge, then, you know, lessen those measurements. Right, getting on to the slightly more complicated ones now. So, so there's a bit of a one that you fold in a slightly different way. So again, you would get 2 from this. So you would just cut your cardstock to just cut it, turn it around and cut it at 5.5. So you would just use half a panel. But then to make life easier, I would also cut off, I would cut that 1/2 inch off and get it down to 8 inches. Okay, just ignore that this is a little bit bigger. I was using the British paper, but I would, just to make life easier, if you're going to make quite a few of these, cut it down to 8 inches. Now, you could do it where you use your whole sheet, but that would be some other measurements. I'll let you figure that one out, but this is the easy option. Right, so if you cut off your 1/2 inch off the side, so this should measure 8 inches across and 5.5 inches down. You would then score at 2 inches and 4 inches, and that would just give you that very simple fancy fold there. And then you could mat onto the front a piece of rectangular cardstock. Now, for last night, I just grabbed something that I had spare. So the measurement for that is 3 by 4 inches. However, if you were trying to be frugal and you wanted to try and get quite a lot of matting layers out of a piece of cardstock, I would then actually just take your card, cut it in half, and then cut it in half again. Okay, so if I show you what that would look like, I would just use that panel there to stick on the front of there, and that would actually just measure 4 1/4 by 2 3/4. So I'm always looking for, and because I have run classes past, I tend to try and think of ways to cut paper in a very efficient way. So if I was prepping this for a class, I would then go, okay, that's great, I've got 8 matting layers there, because that, you know, I've cut that, and, you know, that's 8. And again, if you're, you know, bulk mass making cards, that's probably the easiest thing to do, is just cut your matting layers and then you're done. Okay, so that would be the piece that I would use on there. And then also, you know, that if you're using a stamped one sheet wonder on each one, and you know that you'll be able to put that into your layer there. Okay, moving on. Hello everybody that's on the live. Sorry, I'm not saying hi to lots of people. I'm just wanting to rush through these for everybody. Okay, so the next one we have here is one of the column cards, and I've just remembered I didn't think I've done the measurements for the large column, but I can figure that out in a moment. Okay, so this is for the small column card. So the small column card, again, you can get 2 out of 1 piece of cardstock. Just cut it in half at 5 1/4. And you want to keep, now this time, you want to keep that little bit of extra cardstock, but you might want to just take off 1/4 inch, because you might not need the full 1/2 inch. But you then score at 2, 4, 6 and 8, and then that's how you get that very simple, easy to make column. And then you just stick that extra flap together at the end. So that's how you do that in inches. And then if you wanted to, oh, I've done that wrong as well. It's 5 1/8. A matting layer for the inside of these columns would be 1 7/8 by 5 1/8. Hi everyone. Okay, so oh, this one. Okay, so this was another quite simple one. It's where you use your length there, and then you can pop the panel that you cut off. Actually, it's this way round, isn't it? Sorry. So it's about cutting that piece off and then scoring at that point there. So you need a piece of cardstock that's 11 inches wide by 4 1/4. So 11 by 4 1/4. You then would cut off the hold on, score. Oh, sorry. Then you would score at 5 1/2. Oh no, do it that way round. Sorry, you would score at 5 1/2 and cut at 8 1/4. That would leave you with that layer there for if you wanted to do a side opening card like that, or you could do an interesting tent fold where you do that. Okay, but all you're doing is you're taking that spare piece and turning it and doing like that. And there's nothing to stop you doing it like that either. You could just put it at a jaunty angle if you wanted to. Do what, you know, if you're doing a side one. Okay, so you would end up then with this panel that you can then pop there. And then if you wanted to do the whole matting and layering, that would be, let me just double check that. Where's my ruler? I can't remember which one is which. So this now measures 2 3/4 by 4 1/8. And then if you wanted to do the matting layer, you would then do maybe 4 by 2 1/4, 2 5/8 to get the matting layer to go inside there. But, or whatever, use whatever scraps you've got to do that matting layer. Oh, Karen's just got her SE order. Oh, exciting, Karen. Okay, this is quite a fun one, and I thought you probably would want the measurements for this. This took me a little bit of time to figure this one out. So again, it's half a sheet of your cardstock. So if I just open that up, you kind of see how that works. And then you would open, that would be open up. Again, cutting that piece off the side so that you've just got 8 inches across does make life a little bit easier, I will say. So that's your, I'll turn it around, that would kind of make sense. So you would cut that off, so it was 8 inches across, and then you'd have the 5 1/2 going that way. Then you would pop your piece of cardstock. So imagine this flap was open. You would pop your cardstock into your trimmer and just cut down to this line here. And you would basically just do it at 1 inch. Okay. And then you would do it, move it further on, and you would do it at 4, is that right? 4 inches. No, 4 1/2 inches, sorry. Oh no, don't follow this one. What am I talking about? Hold on. That's 5 1/2. Yeah, you would do it at 4 1/2 inches. Sorry, this is the wrong sizing. So you would cut at 1 inch and 4 1/2 inches, or you would just turn that round and do it that way, but it's probably easier to do it this way. So you put your cardstock in, cut at 1 inch, move it over 4 1/2 inches, just cut to that point there. And then you would turn this round, and basically this is a 2, you would score at 2 inches to get that fold there. And again, you can cut matting layers to fit inside those. I won't go through those now, actually. I'll just leave that as it is, and then you can figure that out. Okay. This one was a bit more interesting. We've got the angled one, which is measurement already, to be honest, but just a little smidge off. So using the full 11 inches that you guys have, you would cut your card at 5.5 inches. Okay, so you would cut that off at 5.5. So cut like that. Then you would score at 5.5 as well to get your just a normal fold, and then you would turn it in your trimmer and score from the top left corner to the bottom right corner to get that easel mechanism. Then to cut the matting layer to go inside, whether it's from designer series paper or from Stamp One Cheap Wonder, you would then cut 5 3/8 by no, that's not quite right, is it? It's not 11 1/4. Hold on. No, that's not wrong right at all. I'm not going to go into it now because I know I haven't quite done it right. So I'm saying the base should be 5.5 inches. So it should be 5 1/4 squared. So this piece here that you stick on the inside and stick should be 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. There we go. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And then one of them you cut in half and stick on each panel. There we go. That's done. There we go. Because I knew, I just had a thought when I set it aside. I thought people are going to be emailing me saying, Ruth, you haven't done it properly. You haven't given me the measurements. So I thought I'd do it now. Okay, so this was another interesting one. This is one where you actually take two pieces and you stick them together and you fold them. You cut the angle and you fold them together like so. And so for this, you actually get this out of a piece of whole cardstock. Look, there's the pieces like so. So making use of your full 8.5 inches there, you would then cut this, you would score at 4 1/4 basically to create a square card and then cut off the angle like so. So basically I'll just go through that again. You've got your 8.5 going across like so. Turn that into your trimmer and cut at 4 1/4 and then cut another piece at 4 1/4. And you have to cut two of those and then you would cut the angle off. And basically you've got to create two exactly the same. All right. That's the key. You can't create one that way and then create this one where you've got the angle going off like that. It won't work. So the reason why that is so that when you stick them together, you can then do that. Okay. Where Ruth is? Oh, I live in Wales, Heidi. Yeah, I live on the I live near the Welsh and English border in Mid Wales. Okay, so this is the last one. You'll be pleased to hear. Oh no, I've got to figure out the column card for you in a minute, but I'll come to that. Okay, so this, again, 11 inches across. So this took a little bit of figuring out as well. So you would cut your card in half, like that, 4 1/4, and then you would score at 2 3/4 and score at 5.5, and that would get you your little bit of Z fold. And then you do exactly the same on a slightly smaller piece of card, and this measures 1 3/4 inches that way, and that's how you would create your Z fold to go in like that. And then your matting layers, I figured them out for these sections here, would be 5 3/8 across by 1 and am I doing that right? 5 3. I have to look at my ruler to do this. Yeah, 5 3/8 by, so they're normally 1 3/4 1 5/8. Okay, 5 3/8 and 1 5/8 to get that panel there. And then to get the small panel, these small panels here, it's 2 5/8 by 2 5/8 across and 1 5/8 down to do another little layer inside there. Or you could just stamp it and not worry about it too much. Right, so the final one that I have to figure out for you, and it's probably easier to do this actually on this one here, because this is, I know this is the right size, is we need to find a way of very simply dividing this into 4. So I would suggest you would actually cut your cardstock down to 10.5 inches. So I'm going to write 10.5 here, leave it completely full going this way. So it would be 8.5 by 10.5 inches. And then you would score at 2.5, 5 inches and 7.5, just to make life easier. Okay, so you would then if I just put a mark there, it will make more sense. So score. Incidentally, if you ever see dashed lines on diagrams for card making, it usually means score, just so you know. And if you see a bold line, it usually means cut. So we would cut that off. Okay, so that is how you would do your column, your giant column. You do want that as to put your glue on, but I think it looks a bit neater with a smaller border to stick. Right, there you have it, guys. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Wow, and the normal ones, 14, 15. So that was 15 different card folds there, all in inches. And relax. I don't measure, just lay it down and cut. That's fine. You can do it that way too. Yeah, you can do it that way too. So there we go. Lovely to see you all. I'm going to say a quick hi to those who are watching on the live here. Hi, Jane, Anne, Mary, Susan, Janine, Barb, Heidi, Wendy, Joanna, Alison, Georgiana, Mary, Louise, Anne, Margaret, Alison. Can we in America order with European paper? I don't think you can. No, it's not available to you. Ali, hello. Who else is on here? Hi, Cheryl. Good to see you. Anyway, thank you so much for popping in. I'm hoping this video is more of a resource really for people who are beginning, and it means that you can come back, pin it, save it, you know, email it to yourself, make sure you remember where it is. And I will also endeavour to do a playlist. I was talking to someone about this week for beginners, a beginners card makers playlist. So this will go into that video. So, oh, thank you, Heidi. Well, I just sort of sat down this evening and I went through all the ones that I still had them piled up, the ones that I did yesterday. And so just had to bear in mind the whole 11 inches, you know, 11 by 8.5, 11 by... I have a post-it note in front of me to remind me constantly what your measurements are. So there we go. And if you're into the whole matting and layering thing, I believe Kylie Bertucci does a downloadable. You pay for it once and it's a PDF, and what she does, she encourages people to cut matting layers out of different coloured cardstock. So basically for each measurement there's a specific colour that goes with it, and so it just makes life a bit easier when you're kind of creating matting layers. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can do that. This actually has sparked off some other ideas to do with making templates to design your cards. So I'm not going to do what Kylie does because she does it so well already, but I have had a little thought of how to get the most out of your card stock, and kind of create little design tools using card. So I'm going to go away and think about that one a bit longer, and then I'll come back to you. So, right, there we go. This was overtime for me. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. And thank you, Carol, for your donation. I really appreciate that. Yes. So lots of love. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. I can see the weather's not great. And people in New Zealand and the South Pacific, please be very careful. I saw the news about the volcano. Please be very careful. This is the middle of January 2022. And yes, and for those of you who watch our service, we won't be going live in the morning. It will be the afternoon because the building that we use is being used in the morning. So we are going to be going live at 3 p.m. our time tomorrow afternoon. So if you do watch us, that's great. If you don't worry. Just if you see that notification, just scroll by. It's just that I have to use my Artful Stampin YouTube channel to broadcast our church service because we can't do it from our laptop. We have to do it from a device, and my account is the only one that we can do it from. Lots of love. Have a great weekend. Bye.